3, 2, 1. Hi, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And we've just gotten the news, the world has gotten the news. Musician, singer-songwriter Tom Petty has passed away. And
very sad day, yeah.
I have to admit I'm kind of beside myself. This has hit me a lot harder than I'm surprised, I should say, at how this has hit me. You know, I'm surprised at how hard it has hit me. I don't know if I thought it would hit me this hard. America has lost one of its great singer-songwriters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when you think of great American rock and roll artists, you know, post Elvis Presley, and you think of John Fogerty,
Creedence.
You think, from Creedence, you think of Bruce Springsteen, think of Bob Seger, and you think of Tom Petty. I mean, he's really, you know, such a, you know, an iconic artist. You know, just so many great songs, and it is such a profound influence on his generation and generations of rockers that have come after him. Yeah,
I agree. I definitely, I would put him right there with Bruce Springsteen and with John Fogerty as far as just Americana roots rock and roll.
And his career spanned so many years. I mean, his debut album came out in November of 1976. And just today, I mean, I'll share this with everybody. I went to my box and I picked this up. This is the return album after a long hiatus from Chris Hillman. So just so catch everyone up, Chris Hillman was a co-founding member of the Byrds and also of the Flying Burrito Brothers.
The Byrds a big influence on Tom Petty.
Tom Petty, a huge influence. And this album, who is it produced by? Tom Petty.
Wow.
And Tom Petty appears on the album. I haven't even heard it yet. You know I'm going to be playing it tonight. Not to only hear what Chris Hillman is up to, but also Tom Petty's, you know, working behind the scenes on the board and everything like that.
A lot of people, of course, when they think of Tom Petty, they're going to mainly think of, you know, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and his solo work. You know, sometimes the two are indistinguishable to audiences. The solo Tom Petty work and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Exactly.
But also a member of the Traveling Wilburys, of course.
And he co-founded that with George Harrison, by the way.
Exactly, George Harrison. And there's also
Mudcrutch.
Thank you. I'm still like reeling from this news.
No, I know. It's hard to formulate our thoughts.
Which is, you know, a band that he was working with currently, a side project currently, even up till now.
Up till now.
And a band that, it's funny, a lot of his fans may not have been aware of it. A lot of classic rock fans are not aware of Mudcrutch, you know. And then, of course, I mean, beyond that, I know that he, for instance, he and the Heartbreakers were Johnny Cash's backup band.
Amazing.
On one of his American recordings that were produced by Rick Rubin. Unchained was the name of that album. And I think you were just telling me before we started about how he backed up Bob Dylan.
Right, exactly. The first time I saw Tom Petty, actually, he was backing up Bob Dylan in the 80s on an Amnesty International tour. As I recall, and this is many, many years ago, Bob Dylan and Petty weren't even on, you know, it was U2, it was, I think, Sting, it was Joan Baez, all these artists and everything. And then who comes out? You know, Bob Dylan backed by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to, like, I think 2006, I got to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' 30th anniversary tour at Indian Wells, California, an amazing show where Stevie Nicks actually came out and performed Stop Dragging My Heart Around with Tom Petty. Cool. And she even backed Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers up with her backing vocals on I Need to Know, one of my favorite songs. You know? And it was just a great concert. And then just not long ago and I wrote it down, September 21st, was the first of 3 nights, the final 3 nights on his 40th anniversary tour with the Heartbreakers, and they performed these 3 dates at the Hollywood Bowl, and the Register was kind enough to ask me to review that show. Unbelievable, for more than 2 hours. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers just were fantastic, and there was no sign that Tom Petty wasn't feeling well. He was rocking out. I know we're going to show some shots on the screen shot by a contributing photographer, Drew Kelly, who was the photographer that night. Tom Petty was on fire and the band was on fire, and it was just a great night.
Yeah, let her finish, and then I'll cut this part out while she cries.
Okay.
Let's hold my position here. There. Do you need to go see her?
No, I don't think so.
See if she needs to be fed or anything?
Yeah, I think he's okay. Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. As much as this has like totally caught me off guard, I imagine this has to be even more of a shock to your system.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw him playing live not that long ago.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, really recent. I mean, yeah, and you know, like I said, the band was obviously great, but Tom Petty looked fantastic. I mean, he sounded great. You know, I mean, you can see in the pictures he was just having a good time. You could see he was really appreciative. And one thing I'll say, you know, you talk about him being so humble. He kept, you know, thanking the audience, kept saying thank you for, you know, I'm in shock kind of like you right now, but almost after every song he would thank the audience for coming, thank them for his career. He was so thankful to the other members of his band. You know, just like Mike Campbell is obviously like, you know, he can't say enough great things about Mike Campbell, and he's always saying, hey, he's one of the greatest guitarists, why doesn't he get more credit and stuff. You know, he's everybody's cheerleader, and like we said, not only was he a cheerleader for the people that influenced him, you know, whether it's George Harrison or Chris Hillman, but also you introduced me to the Shelters, and talk a little bit about the Shelters.
That's right. The Shelters was a band that we did cover on Music Worth Buying, and they were, there we go, they were a band that Tom Petty discovered. He saw them playing locally. He thought, wow, these guys are really good. Yeah. And so he actually took them under his wing. He put them up at his studio, had them record their album. He just tried to give them a leg up so that more people could know about their music. Yeah. And this was, you know, a new, you know, young band. And very good band, very good album. And, you know, he gave back.
Yeah, he gave back.
He gave back. I think, you know, it's funny. I'm just having such a hard time, you know, putting this all into words. On the way up here to do this, to see you, I was listening to Hypnotic Eye, his last album. And it's funny, as I think about it, I think about the shows we've done. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I don't know if we ever really gave, even we gave him the kudos we should have given him. Not that we ever said anything bad about him, but I think that, like for instance, like how many times have we talked about how Neil Young, you know, refuses to just be a nostalgia act.
Exactly.
How he continues to want to challenge himself, challenge his audience, and keep making new music. Tom Petty's the same way. He keeps challenging himself and his audience. He keeps wanting to stay relevant. He could just be a nostalgia act. He refuses to do that. Exactly. Even after, you know, FM rock radio has abandoned him. And it's not just him. FM rock radio, we had this period during the 60s and the 70s where FM rock radio was discovering and breaking all these exciting artists that we now consider to be classic rock and legacy artists. And then FM radio became standardized. It became extremely programmed to where it became classic rock. Exactly. And that was when, and then the innovation ended. No more new music, even from the classic artists who are our lifeblood. We're still not going to play their new music. And so he got abandoned like so many other artists. And I always appreciated, one of my favorite albums from his later period, after he was abandoned by rock radio, was The Last DJ, where he really like kind of just let out on the whole current pop culture climate, especially the American Idol pop culture climate. He would talk about how, you know, there'd be these so-called music artists who were like, well, if I can't be famous in a year, I'll do something else. And he was like, how can you expect to make great music that will last, have any kind of lasting value when you have that kind of an attitude? Yeah. And I appreciated the fact that he kind of went after that culture in that album. He went after the whole kind of like, you know, where it's not so much about the music as it is about your endorsement deals. Yeah. And he was about the music. Yeah. You know, that's what was always the focus.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see that the whole history of rock, everything about rock and roll was so important to him. You know, like we said, you know, his whole thing falling in love with the Beatles when he was 13 on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
a lot of
artists. Like a lot of artists his generation, and then getting to play with George Harrison and getting to play with Jeff Lynne and all his musical heroes and Bob Dylan and Roy Orbison, and he was such part of fabric of not only the American landscape with his Heartland style of
Yeah.
rock and roll, but just rock and roll everywhere, you know, and giving back. And it's just such a tragic loss. And I know these are, you know, it's so hard when we lose people that we really care about. I mean, because they've been these songs are so much a part of our lives, you know, and have influenced us. And I know when I was starting out in bands, one of my favorite songs to play was, you know, I Need to Know. I just used to love to play that. You know, it's just such a driving, great, you know, it's the personification of rock and roll.
I can remember, during my early days, we would play Breakdown because it was so easy.
Yeah.
You know, da-da, dump, da-da, you know. And for the most of the song, you could keep repeating that, you know. And the guitar solo, great melodic guitar solo, was easy enough when you're like just a beginner guitarist. That you can pretty much do. You can pretty much cop that lick without too much trouble. I'm not dissing the lick. It's an excellent lick because it stays in your memory.
Yeah, exactly.
I judge it by how melodic it is. But it was a lick that most guitarists, you know, without too much proficiency, you know, with just some basic level of proficiency, could cop.
So you're saying even I could play it, right?
Even you could play it, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. But no, great stuff. And Mike Campbell, truly a great guitar player.
Great guitar player.
Heartbreakers are an amazing band. I mean, I can, like I said, I feel very privileged to have seen one of their final shows, but it's also so bittersweet. You know, like we're talking about. I mean, we're both in shock. I don't even know if the emotional, you know, weight of this has even really hit us yet because the news is so. It's so raw on the nerves.
Yeah,
you know, it's just heartbreaking, and you know, Tom Petty is just totally going to be missed. You know,
of course.
Yeah,
I just feel like even we didn't like perhaps cover him or talk about him in the way we should have while he was still around.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we did, and I feel kind of bad about that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why it's kind of hitting me. Also, just so unexpected.
Yeah, so unexpected.
You know, I mean, you know. He's not that old.
Yeah, 66.
Yeah, no, he's not that old. Yeah. And we certainly have artists that are older that are still going. But but you know, this is what happens. Life can be that way. You don't know when this is going to happen.
No, you don't.
You know, it can happen. It can happen a lot. We've seen it over the last several years. We've seen it happen to music artists a lot younger too.
Yeah.
And it can just happen like that. And I guess if there's anything I would say is, you know, the legacy artists that are still here do appreciate what they're doing. Do try to go beyond their hits. You know, if that's all you know, try to actually dig deep into their albums.
Yeah.
And these days with streaming services like Spotify and Tidal, you know, there's no reason not to. There's no reason why you can't.
Yeah, maybe with Tom Petty, check out Hypnotic Eye. Like you said, it's a really good album. And if you didn't, I believe it came out in 2014. If you didn't hear it yet, you know, give it a listen. It's a great album. And
check out Mudcrutch.
Yeah, check out Mudcrutch. Exactly. Yeah.
It's just. Anyways, though, I'm not really sure at this point what else I can really say except, you know, you don't notice. I think I may have said this before, and I remember there's this story. When Elvis died, someone told this story to me about how he went to the record store, and he went to the E section to look up Elvis Presley. All the albums were gone. Apparently, people had bought them.
Right.
And there was like someone had put a little handwritten card there there in the rack where the records are. It said, "You don't miss the water till the well runs dry."
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel. I just like with David Bowie.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like there was still a lot more music we were going to be getting.
Yeah, definitely.
From David Bowie, and I feel the same way about Tom Petty.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I think there was more good music ahead for him, and also, you know, producing more discovery of bands like the Shelters or celebrating people like Chris Hillman, and I know I have to tell you a funny aside. I didn't get to talk to him or meet him, but actually when I saw the Zombies a couple tours ago at the in Beverly Hills, Tom Petty was in the audience, and the Zombies publicist had said, I'd been championing the band for a while, and the publicist said, "Oh yeah, maybe you can come meet the Zombies after." Well, apparently I never got a call, because Tom Petty was back there with the band and was so excited to spend time with them, and I'm glad they got that. But that shows you that he not only was he a great musician, a great songwriter, but he was a big fan of music, and like we are. I mean, that's why we do this show. We just love music, and we love the whole, like what you guys have to say, and we appreciate your feedback, because it is a special connection that people have to music, you know.
Yeah.
And Tom Petty was obviously had such a profound influence on all of us. So.
Yeah. At any rate, I'm not sure how much more I can really say at
Yeah.
this point that hasn't been said. We'd love to hear what you think. Please share with us your experiences with Tom Petty. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite album? What's your favorite Tom Petty side project? Be it, working with Johnny Cash, or be it with the Mudcrutch, anything you'd like to share, anything you'd like to say. We would love to hear from you. Anyways, but please share your thoughts on Tom Petty, and just our thoughts and prayers are with his family and his bandmates.
Yeah, definitely.
Family, friends, and bandmates. Which in the circle of rock and roll, I'm sure he's got a lot of friends.
Yeah, he does. You could just, I know Twitter just lit up with all the illustrious, big time musicians and just everyday people like us.
The royalty of rock and roll.
The royalty of rock and roll, whether it's Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, whoever.
Yeah.
Just people. Obviously, Tom Petty had his music really moved a lot of people, and he was also a great guy. So yeah, he's going to be missed. And
according to Stevie Nicks, he was a very cool guy.
Yeah, yeah.
According to Stevie Nicks, he's like the coolest.
Yeah,
from what I've heard her say in
interviews. He was
interviews.
definitely cool when I saw him on stage. You know, so he was a cool guy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please share your thoughts, and appreciate the music.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. See you later.